All right, tubers. I got a project today. It's dump find day. We were at the dump yesterday, and we were wandering through the scrap steel pile, despite the signs saying "Do not wander through the scrap steel pile." But anyways, we're going through it, and I was looking. There was a piece of a rotor tiller here, a piece of a rotor tiller there. Kind of honestly, I was kind of interested in that, but didn't grab it. But whatever. But what I did spot was the rotor tiller motor. So here's what we got. It's a Briggs. I am not sure of the horsepower. I have not even looked at this thing yet. I literally snagged it out of the pile, threw it in the back of the trailer, and off we went. Like I say, you're not supposed to grab stuff from our local dump. Now, if I'm gonna guess, I'm gonna say it's a 5-horse, strictly by the size and the fact that it was in a rotor tiller. You're not really going to have a 3-horse in a rotor tiller, and it was a fairly big rotor tiller. So nice thing about this motor is I don't think I was much of a gardener, because it doesn't look like this thing was barely ever used. It's all complete. Looks like at one point in time somebody screwed on a different muffler. Those always rotted out, but other than that, it's still got the original pull handle. Looks like it's still got the original pull rope. The spark plug wire still has the proper end on it, hasn't been pissed with. It's still got the governor, everything's still hooked up, the gas cap, everything. It's all still here, exactly like it would have come out of the factory, excluding the muffler has been changed. But other than that, it's there. It's complete. It turns over. I did pull it over a couple times before I yanked it out of the pile, and I did pull it over a couple times when I got home. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, it's a complete motor. So we're gonna drag it inside, and maybe we'll search the VIN on it and see exactly what size of motor it is. Although I am sure it's going to be a 5-horse. Model, type, code. Does have some information there. I'm sure with a quick Google search I can see exactly what was what on those. I'm not seeing any other real stickers. There's something there. What's it say? Pull for choke. Oh, this has got the old slide choke on it. It's been a while since I messed with these flatheads, but this one's still got the old pull choke on it. But yeah, it looks like it's all there. Looks at some point in time somebody lost the oil cap for it, because I highly doubt this one come with the plastic one on it. But they've replaced it, it fits. And yeah, like I say, it don't look like this thing's been beat too hard at all. Everything is still there for it. So let's drag it inside, see what we can do. Alright guys, so we got her in the shop here. I had some looking around. I started rubbing off the serial number here to try to see what it was, and then I looked at the front of the cover, and you can actually still see the shadow in the white paint of the 5 and the horsepower. So this is a 5 horsepower like I was thinking. I brought it in. It pulls over real nice. It's got some compression in it, so I highly doubt there's going to be any kind of serious problems. I haven't even checked, I don't know, let's see. I'm highly doubting any kind of fuel that's liquid in it anyways. And I'm correct actually though. Oh, I wish I had a light out here. Because this tank, and I don't know if you can see down, oh yeah, you can see down in there. See that? Look at how nice and clean that is in there. There is like no rust. No nothing, there's just the slightest little bit of fuel in the one corner. But other than that, it's pretty clean. So, let's see. We'll see if we got some sparks. So here, just hand my camera back over and pop off the line here. Plug is tight here, so I'll grab a socket. Pop out that. Let's see if it's the classic. Oh no, it is the right size. Some of these Briggs had a spark plug that wasn't the same size as a spark plug socket, but this one actually is. So we'll pop out the plug here. Now, it looks a lot like somebody's just putting a plug in this. Oh, but it was running. There's some dark on there. Now you can see this one thing you got to watch out for. See, there's just that little bit of frickin' crud carbon in between the diode and that, or the electrodes. But we'll just kind of chip that off there. Now looking at this plug, looks like it might have burned a little bit of oil. But you know what? It almost looks like it's almost looking like somebody had two-stroke oil in this thing, which I've seen some ridiculous things in my life, and I don't want to be like hey to the city slickers, but I've seen guys that put two-stroke oil and stuff like this thinking that it just should have it. Yeah, let's see what happens here. We'll set that there. They never quite want to sit where they'll sit and stay for you, and I've been zapped by these things so many times that gets sickening after a while. Let's see if we can just find a spot where it'll sit nice. Alright. And it's going to be a pain in the butt. Stay somewhere. Trying to get it to stay in and to be in a spot where we can see a spark. I know this I can still get hit anyways, even through the rag, but it makes me feel better. So let's see. Not a bit of spark. Not even the slightest bit. We'll try to get a different angle on the plug here. And let's try again. Still nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now this thing is still complete, so it still does have the kill switch. Now I went all the way to that side, which I'm sure is on, but let's try the other side just in case. But I'm sure I was right on that one. And still nothing. Okay. We'll go back to the other side for 1 second here on the throttle. And yeah, that was all the way on, so that is the highest setting. Now, I know that plug looks like crap, but I'm guessing I've fiddled with enough of this stuff. I don't think that's going to be my issue. Let's give it a quick wipe off because it's not even really got nothing on it. It kind of looks a lot like they got it started, run it for who knows how much of a little bit, and then who knows what happened. They give up on it or something. Now looking down into the cylinder, it looks like there's, yeah, you ain't gonna be able to see down in there, but it kind of looks like it's a little oily down there. But like I say, this thing doesn't look like it's too old or got too many miles on her. So I really don't think, just gonna give it a good pull here. Still not. I don't think it's gonna be a situation where it was burning oil. If it was burning oil, it was probably from sitting. But there ain't too much to these things. I'll tell you right now, I'm probably gonna go in here and the points are gonna be closed or something like that. But let's wrench her off real quick here and we'll see. So the only pain in the butt about these old ones was getting the flywheel off unless you got the right equipment or the right skill, but we don't have the equipment, I guarantee, but we got the skill. So we'll pop this cover off and I'll show you how to get one of these things off without the equipment and only the skill. These ones, I guarantee, this old flathead Briggs certainly has points in it. And a lot of times, what happens is the points will either stick open, or they'll just be so dirty that they won't work at all. But usually, a quick trip in and a little bit of sandpaper, and you're rocking. I love these old motors. It's 3 bolts. A little bit of yummies in there. Oh. Yummy. But still got a good rope. Pull start actually returns itself most of the time, so that's nice. So what we're gonna do now, these old things, is you got the ratchet on it that drives it, right? And in the real world, there's you take off this screen, and there's a wrench that actually fits over top of this thing, and I'll show you that in a second. Now I'm going to tell you right now, the only time I've ever seen one of those wrenches was in shop class in high school, when they made us tear down these motors. Was our first class project in grade 9 auto shop, basically. And they used this exact same motors for teaching us how motors work, how the combustion, stuff like that, and they used it to teach us how timing was important and all that stuff. Now, once you get this screen off here, it just holds on with these two little screws. These screws hold that cap in too, but I don't want that cap to come off. There's 3 little bearings in there, and they're not hard to find, or it's not hard to put back together, but I don't need to, so I'm not gonna. So we'll put them covers back on. Now, the trick to this, like I say, there's a big wrench that fit on these things, and it literally fit over top of this like a cup, and it grabbed this finger and this finger. And always make sure, and this one is just a normal thread, but how it ratchets this way and turns on tight that way, you know for sure that that's tightening it. But anyways, what we're going to do is simple. And we can make this work. And one thing we'll check while we're here is that coil. When you're looking at it, you got to make sure it's not touching the flywheel. Sometimes you'll get rust built up on the magnets out here, and what will happen is you'll get it'll scrape it, and you don't get a good spark. Anyway, so 1 second. I'll take the toolbox. I'll be right back. All right, so the trick to these guys is you basically get to hammer this thing off. Now you can prop this and try to stop it if you need to, but usually you don't have to. But what you want to do is just get on one of those fingers, here, give it a good sharp smack. Can't really mess around and give it some light little tap. You got to give it a good thud. And what's going to happen is eventually it should start turning that off, and once you get it loose, I'm gonna prop my foot underneath the back of it there a little bit, because once it starts spinning, they're usually not seized in by any means, so it's just a matter of getting it moving, and then once it's moving, you can get it to spin right off. I think it's going, but I'm having a hard time telling. Yeah, it is going, it's just not, there we go. So, simple as that. You want to keep these screws in when you're doing that, because this is just like it's not steel, it's like an aluminum alloy basically. But if you don't have that screw in, you'll smash that hole closed that it goes into. Like I say, in the real world, that wrench goes over there, and there was actually another wrench that goes in between the fins. What you don't want to do on these things is get your pry bar out and jam it in between 2 of these fins and try to crank this thing off, because you will snap a fin off. I guarantee it. Done it a bunch of times. Step 2 to this project is getting this flywheel off. Now this thing's got a taper fit in there, and it's stuck on there. Now you can get a puller out and it'll frick around forever and ever and ever and ever. Or you can get a pry bar, put a little bit of tension on it from behind, and you're just gonna take the very front, and no, same thing, no messing around. You're not tapping it this thing 100 times, you're gonna give it a good smack. just like that, it pops it off the taper fit. I say, if I had tapped at that thing and tapped and tapped and tapped, I'd just sit there and smush the end of the shaft all freaking done, and we'd be over. But one good smack pops it right off. Some of them you'll actually see where these two nugs are here got bolt holes drilled in them for jaw pullers and stuff like that, but not all of them did. So all your points in the condenser are underneath here, and look at here's why it's not running. Puddle of water pouring out of it. So I'm guessing there's just a little bit of moisture inside the old points, which will make it not run at all. So this thing probably sat out in the rain. Who knows? Like I say, it's a dump find for me, and it was probably just sitting on its side. But anyways, here we are inside. Make sure there's nothing going on here. There's just a little seal that goes through. This one's got the kill wire, which is right here. And this goes off the condenser, goes down to the starter switch, or sorry, to the throttle control. And it's got a little point right here where when this is all the way over to the side, it touches it and grounds out that wire and shuts it off. Now, if your flathead Briggs didn't have that, you can actually see right here where this cover on the top comes down and there's a little tab of steel and kind of a goofy little hole in the head. These things actually had the original ones, depending on the circumstance for what they were used for, literally was a piece of steel there that sat underneath that tab, and you would push it over and it would touch the top of the spark plug, and that was your kill switch. So anyways, let's see what we got in here. Now, the wire's hooked up, the coil's there. The coil looks like it's in good shape. Now the points actually don't look like they got much crud on them. Let's see if they open. Now, if you see right in there, you can see as I turn, it closes, opens, and closes. And closes. So they are working. Now you can get out, you can use the frickin' feeler gauge and measure that gap, but normally they're going to be pretty much right. And it's not, you know, as long as they close is the big part of it. Now, I should be getting a spark out of that, but chances are we're going to pull that open and there's going to be just a little bit of crud in there. Now, these old points were kind of nice because you can just kind of pick off that spring, or you can literally just kind of pull out and open this up and see what's going on. Let's see if I can find the light here. Let's see if I can find the light. 1 second. Okay. So anyways, we're back. I went and grabbed a light, but not too much on there, but there's just a little bit. You can just see underneath my fingernail there on them points, there's just enough crud there that, like I say, these ones, they just kind of got this spring-loaded arm anyways, and you can see there's quite a bit of moisture on there. So things that work great for this is just a nail file or anything like that, just to get a little bit of scraping in there. And I almost, you know, I'll say it out loud and I'll probably get hammered on because the machine gods will be like, no way, Harley, but you can see the moisture in there, so clearly that wasn't helping us out at all. But I'll take a little bit of sandpaper, we'll scrape that out real quick. Maybe I'll take a blowgun and just blow around in there, get rid of some of the moisture. But I almost guarantee that once I throw the cover and the flywheel back on this, that we get a nice spark out of this. So grab a piece of sandpaper. Ideally, if you have one, go into the house and you steal one of your girlfriend or your wife's nail files. The little steel ones, not them big paper ones they got nowadays, but if you got the old steel ones, they fit nice. You just open that up and get in there. But for our purposes today, a little tunk of 220 sandpaper, and all we're gonna do is open that up some, and you're gonna do one side and just rub it around in there. If you gotta hold the points open just a little bit with your other hand to let it slide around, then so be it. But literally the best thing you can do is just let it rub in between. Like I literally got it stuck in there, and I'm using the spring pressure to control how much I'm sanding. So just get a nice and light. It's not about grinding a bunch off or anything like that. We'll do the one side, and then you'll flip it over and do the other side. Now in this particular style of engine, the condenser, the end of the condenser is the one end of the point. So here's your condenser here, and literally the end of that condenser is the other half of your points. So we're just gonna get in there just a little bit more. And if you got to, just pull off the end of your paper so you got a nice stiff piece again. And get in there and just nice and lightly. Now you don't want to scrimp on this. You don't want to take a whole bunch off, but you want to make sure, because some motors and a lot of motors are going to be identical to this one inside with these old flatheads. Even if it's just a Tecumseh or anything like that, it's probably going to be the same setup inside. Is no sense in doing all the work to pull the cover and the flywheel off, just to kind of half-ass clean the points and then still have a problem. So but we'll go in there a little bit. So grab our flashlight again here. Now if we look in there, you can see how that point's nice and clean. There's no fuzz left on top of it, and the bottom one's going to be just like that. Now, like I say, in here we'll just put a little of this soot out here. Yeah, you can see the water blowing off in there. But just that little bit of water that was in there before is enough to screw it up. These points, basically what happens is when they're closed, that's when the electricity or the high, it builds up, and then soon as it opens is when the field collapses in the coil, and that collapsing of the field is what makes the high intensity spark. So, but anyways, we got that cleaned up, and with the flashlight here, we'll do another run around, and you can see them points open, and then they close. And every time they open and close is when you get a spark. So we'll get this going back together. Now, of course, like always, I was not paying attention, and I've lost track of the key for the flywheel. No, key. Should look like a little half moon chunk of steel. Move this over some. I haven't gone nowhere, so it should be right here. Oh, here it is. So that's your flywheel key right there. Now this key is actually meant to be, it's soft. It's a soft steel, and the purpose of it being a soft steel is as if, you got all sorts of different purposes that you could run this motor on. Say it was something that a chipper or something like that, and you hit something and the motor stopped real fast, and these flywheels were fairly heavy. They don't want to wreck the flywheel or the shaft. They want that to split, and then the flywheel will spin around it. So we'll get the cover, and we'll actually blow out that cover a little bit too. Make sure there's no moisture in there. Cover only goes on one way, obviously. There's only one direction it's going to go. These old motors, though, too, I'll tell you, I have drug so many of these old things out of the dump, or found them in people's yards or backyards or here or there, given to me, different stuff I've torn them off of over the years. And I don't think I've ever had one that I couldn't get running without buying parts or having to get parts or anything. Like, they've always just been complete enough to run with just a little bit of tinkering around. Now when you put this flywheel back on, you're just going to line the shaft back up. There's only one way the keys get to go in, and I usually just take a bar or something and slide it in there. Had a washer. Pay attention to which way it goes on. There is a cup to it. It's hard to see, but it's kind of got like a bevel where this side's a bit taller in the middle, and you can see where your evidence mark was for where this piece was. Now when you're putting this back on, this is very important, and I've made this mistake before, is I haven't put it on tight enough. Sorry, I don't know why it doesn't want to pop in there. And here's where, even when I only hit that thing once and I managed to put a burr on it. Alright. A little bit of sandpaper on the tip of that. Now when you remember when I hit it to pop it off, I clearly just put a little burr on the tip somewhere. Just enough that it doesn't want to slide on nice. Now what you don't want to do is just cram that ratchet back on, because if you just cram that ratchet back on and it wants to spin in there, it's not going to spin in that tunnel nice, and you're going to have it's going to feed your cord out every time the motor starts. And if there's anything frustrating about these old Briggs, it's the freaking the cord starter, the rope that you pull. Oh, I'm really having a hard time believing that I put a mark in that shaft. But do as I say, not as I do. 1 second. So I'm fairly lazy, and I'm not the type of guy to spend all day sanding, so we'll whip out something a little stronger here. And I'm not going to take off much, but I'm just going to Alright, of course the compressor had to turn on and make all sorts of noise, but so I took that down on the end, and now keep in mind the end of this thing has really no effect on how it operates, so you can grind a little bit off of that. But now it goes back on nice and easy and it spins. Like I say, last thing you want to do is hammer it on though, because this piece of the shaft spins inside of the end lug of the ratchet down the hole there. So if I hammer that on, then this piece of the ratchet's always going to want to turn. Now what we're going to do, putting it back on, woohoo! Spark works now. I got a spark off that thing like no tomorrow. So like I say, that little bit of point cleaning. But here's the trick: when you're putting these things back together, hitting them off's not too bad, and you can get it done like that. But when you're putting them back on, this ratchet you can actually use to tighten it. So you find a wrench that's going to fit over the ratchet, and very carefully you got to pick. There's some fins that are bigger, right there, and you got to use the ratchet and the wrench to tighten it back up. We'll get that stuck back in there. Find a spot where it fits nice. Now, the reason you got to make sure this thing's tight though, as I showed you that shear pin or that keyway that goes inside before, if you don't put these things together quite tight enough, and I've made this mistake before, there we go, is what will happen is once this thing starts up the first time and starts spinning, it'll shake the flywheel loose and it'll spin it right off that, and it'll cut that keyway, and you're done. So anyways, I got that clamp back down. We're gonna take these two screws back out. And like I say, I left the screws in when I was hitting it off, so that I left the screws off, or in, sorry, so that I wouldn't crush them eyelets. When you look at this screen, there's just two little spots that are kind of gnarled out. And that was how these things come right from factory, so don't think that's because somebody's been messing around. Let's center that up in there. Tighten the screws back up. And shabam. Like I say, I already caught a spark off that, just spinning it with my hand back and forth that one time. So I know we've made progress here. So now we'll go back to the cover. The cover's got some smuts in it, so we're gonna take the blowgun, try to get some of that smuts out. Not that that smuts will hurt anything, but it's pretty gnarly, so we'll get that out. Cover back on. Oh, make sure the side's in there. There. These old motors are so simple. And that's why they ran for years and years and years, because there's nothing to them. Nothing that you can't fix. And just like I said before, I don't think I've ever found any of them that wouldn't at least run some. Now, that's not to say that I haven't had that where, you know, some guy run it out of oil and it smoked a cylinder or something. And, you know, they might smoke, they might carry on, you know, shoot flames out the exhaust or who knows what, or just not run very well. But every one I've ever had ran. So, I'll get those tightened back up. There's the 3 bolts. Kind of comes to me now, and we'll do it on the way by just because I'm looking at it. We'll see if there's actually any oil in this thing. I'm guessing, oh, yeah, there's oil in it. It's even about the right level, so that's nice. So, and before I lose my gas cap, we'll just toss that back on there. Let's see now, we'll pop this plug back out. And I wish I had a magnet, because I seen a guy on the internet and he actually he put a magnet on the head and then stuck the plug to the magnet, which is quite a nice idea. But let's see. Oh yeah, look at that spark, get right up in there. Oh, well, it was sparking. Oh, yeah, there we go. Nice blue spark, no problem. So as you can see, we had a nice big blue spark there. These motors were never ever, they don't have an amazing spark on them. So don't look for some giant, you know, flash of freaking light in the eye scare, because it's just not gonna happen. They just don't do it. So, but anyways, so we got spark now. So we'll fire the plug back in, and there's absolutely no gas in the tank. So we'll run around and grab some gas and see what happens. Now, no guarantees obviously, because it may fire up, it may not. We'll see what the gas or the carburetor's like. But I'm guessing from how clean it is, it's gonna fire up. So let's go find some gas. So anyways, we'll fire some gas in. We're not gonna get too fancy about it. Now, I'm not gonna get carried away and fill this thing right to the brim, because that would be stupid. Because if it doesn't fire up and I need to take the carburetor off for some reason, I don't want to be spilling gas everywhere. But we'll see what happens. I got pretty high hopes. I think a few pulls. And we're gonna at least hear a putter. So I didn't put much gas in there, but it's definitely enough to get us going. And I say, so far I've done nothing except for get that spark going. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. This one's got the choke back here. And let's see what happens. Make sure the choke's on. Now these old chokes, they always wanted to pull themselves back in, so you got to watch out for that. Alright, so I'm not much of a puller, so we'll try the cheating way. And we'll just put just a dribble of fuel down the carb. And we'll see what happens. Now these things, if you put a little dribble of fuel down there like that, one of two things is going to happen: nothing, or it's going to start to try to fire up. And we'll see. Now you don't necessarily got to put the air breather back on every time, but since I got to hold this thing down, I don't want it to blow a flame at me if it decides that it's going to backfire or something. So let's see. Still nothing. I would have really thought I'd get a fire out of that. Let's see. It's always so hard to hold these things down. Oh, there's a puff. kill switch still works. But clearly it smokes a bit because the garage is filled with her. Let's pop the door open. Maybe we'll drag her outside for a second. Now it was throwing a few little sparks out the exhaust, but I'm not going to get too worked up about that. Bring her out here, we'll set her on this rubber mat. Fire it up again. Let her run for a minute. Let's see. One pull? 1, 2, 1. What do you think? One pull, he says? Oh! Well, apparently they had the bolt out of that.
It split the bolt on the inside. I didn't know what it was.
There we go. Either way, 2 pulls then. 3 pulls. Let's try some choke. Maybe more gas. Huh. That's interesting. I'm really surprised for how good it was running. That didn't fire right back up. Let's see. Maybe it's something to do with our kill switch. Try again here. Interesting. Don't really understand why it's not firing back up, but let's see. Go for the ultra choke. Looks like there's fuel down there. Interesting. Smells like anything that's flooded, probably. Interesting. Oh, 1 sec. So I guess maybe it only liked running when it was trying to kill us off with its smog. Yeah. Best thing to do with these things, pull it, plug, see what it looks like. It's reasonably dry, a little wet around the edges. We'll give her a quick blow with the air gun. Now there was still a little bit of old fuel on the bottom of that bowl. And actually somehow it got wetter than it was. Sometimes what I like to do is grab a torch and burn it off. So I'll just grab the torch. I'll just heat it off. That way it burns off any moisture or water if there's a little water in there. I'm not getting this thing red hot or nothing. I'm basically just blow drying it. Have a little. Looks like it's okay in there. Crank that back tight. Now keep in mind I haven't even cleaned that plug yet. It's still all grimy and gross. But see what we got. Interesting, folks. Interesting. Maybe we'll have to clean the plug. Let's see if we got sparks still. There's a spark there. Not uber impressed with those. Hit that with a little bit of sandpaper. Give her a little better chance here. It was sparking, so I know it's got spark, but clean it a little bit, a little better spark, fire back up, see what happens there. Weird. Try a little bit of fuel. See if that's the key. Well, from that, I'm going to guess that it's gotten a little bit of hard time getting fuel. Seems a lot like it's starving just a little bit when it starts up, but it seems to run good. Idle's down pretty good. Yeah, it's got some smoking issues, but it could have the wrong oil or just garbage oil or thin oil. But she does idle down real nice. But for a dump find, can't complain about that. Obviously it's going to need to be tuned up a little bit if I want to run it on something, which I'm sure we'll find a project to build it into, but not too bad. Free motor. Keep in mind if we even just letting that thing run for a while and burn through some gas will make a big difference, and more than likely changing the oil will get rid of the smoking problem. But yeah, she's a motor, she's a runner, so she's a runner. She runs good. So, all right, guys. So that's this week's dump find. Yeah, 5-horse brakes, runs right. she's a runner. Like you say, it was smoking a little bit there in the video. I'll almost guarantee that's the oil that's in it. It looks real thin and kind of goofy. And these motors, like they preferred like a straight 30 weight oil without nothing, no additives and crap in it there before that time. So if somebody threw some 1030 or some 530 or something like that in there, like car oil, it's gonna smoke like that. It's just gonna get by the rings. They weren't built with that tight tolerance back then like they are nowadays. So, but yeah, she's a runner. Cord works, pulls, everything. The carb works. You seen in the video there where both times I started it dumping fuel down the carb to get it going. After the video, I started it several times without doing that. A lot of times with these old ones, it's a matter of running some fuel through them, right? Like if you get them started, just keep them going. And if it's just a little bit of varnish inside of them, then it'll run it out, no problem. So you're good there. So, but anyways, like the video if you liked it. You got questions about anything I did today's video, you just throw that down in the comments. Subscribe if you want to see more, because there's going to be all sorts of this stuff. I do a bunch of different things on this channel, from getting old motors running, building things, toys, stuff like that. The other day I just got my four-wheeler running again. No videos on that one, but it's something I do. We got the power wheels that I've been building over here too underneath the pile of stuff. So, but yeah, that's it, man. That's our dump find. So we got a free 5-horse Briggs. That thing will run for just about ever, and we can put it on just about anything we wanted to. So probably be one of the videos in the future. You'll probably see us drag that motor out from back and build it onto something. So you guys have a good one. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time.